I think that game affected you personally. So I'll let you go first on this, Mike. Come on, let me hear what you got to say on this one.
Well, I did my ranting last week prior to Game 7, and you said, hey, Mike, it's like you know they're going to lose Game 7. And I'm not going to say that I knew it, but things weren't trending in the right direction. So listen, first off, Suns and the Bucks, say sayonara to both of them, last year's finals champions, or finals contestants, both heading to Cancun. Now, historic. Well, I'm just wondering: are the Suns all going? Is Ayton joining the team? Because now I'm hearing rumors that there might have been locker room issues with Ayton, not getting his bread, not getting the ball. I think about Game 3, them trying to force feed him the ball and him dropping everything. But the bottom line is this: historic Game 7 loss for the Suns. You lose by 33 points at home as the number 1 seed in the second round. Everybody, blame across the board. Chris Paul, number 1. Booker, right up there with him. The whole team, the whole coaching staff. I have all my theories. Chris Paul either aged in dog years. The whole team was paid off. There was, what else? DeAndre Ayton, I don't know, man. It was really hard to watch that game and be like, yo, what is going on out there? 57-27, Luka scored 27. So the bottom line is I know we had talked about this before. Sure, they won 64 games, and if you look back in history, teams that won that many games relative to the rest of the league, they usually win. But what is this team? What's the difference between this team and those teams? Those teams had Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. There's nobody like that on this team. Okay, you have 37-year-old Chris Paul. You don't have 30-year-old Chris Paul. You don't have 28-year-old Devin Booker, who's going to be better. You don't have that all-time great number 1 option. So Luka was the best player on the court. And that's the trump card, like we talked about. The only time it's not is if you got Tatum, who can compete with Giannis, like he did, like we just talked about. So at the end of the day, I was 100% wrong. I think we were all wrong on the Suns, but that's why they lost. They lost because Chris Paul got old. Whatever he did, he stunk in the last 5 games. There's no excuse for it. Booker was horrible in Game 7. Yeah. And that's all I got to say. I'm done. All right. Go ahead, Les. Let me have it.
Well, I think, personally, the Suns underperformed, like you said, being the number 1 seed, losing by 33 at home. Booker was looking like, that guy during Game 2, when he was laying there calling it, Luka special and all of that, I think he thinks he's Jason Tatum, I think that's what it is, but I wish I was Jason Tatum too, so I could see that. But again, that's not how, we all expected that series to go, because Devin Booker has always been that guy that, if Booker gets that guy, he's going to go to the play. And then he got Paul. First, we all saw how it went. And then this year, so we expected them to at least go back to the finals, just like the Bucks. With the Bucks, they legitimately lost one of, if not their best shot maker, outside of Giannis. So with them, you can't say the Bucks underperformed. I think they stayed, on par with Celtics till Game 7. I think the Bucks will roll through a lot of teams. If the Bucks would have been in, the finals right now, if they didn't phase the Celtics, that was going to be the hardest matchup, and that's what they got into. So with a team like Suns, I think they really underperformed, because now they're facing a Dallas team that overperformed against the Jazz, if you look back, So when you think forward, it's like, how does, Dallas find a way to get here? And then, it's like the I Believe team, they're just going, behind Luka and all of that. They were picking up, screens with Luka, just making him look bad. But then, they adjusted. I don't think the Suns adjusted. I think the Suns were like, we're better than you and we're going to beat you. And it just didn't work, So I think they highly underperformed with that. But, what do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I do agree. The Suns, I think their thing all year has been great team basketball, with their 2 consistent guys kind of leading the way. I think you saw that early in the series. You see Chris Paul having his way. You see Devin Booker having his way games 1 and 2. Although Luka had an enormous point total, they really couldn't get over that. But as we move into the later games in the series, you see Luka really starting to have his way, even though you see the early, game 3, game 4, I think he wasn't scoring right off of the bat. He was, getting a lot of rebounds, assisting, really drawing a lot of attention, opening up shots for his guys. And so at the end of the day, the Suns later in the series really kind of fell off, although Booker, I think, averaged decent numbers throughout the series. Like you said, Mike, he had a terrible game 7. Game 7 was just kind of atrocious. Like you said, you see Luka getting off to a crazy start. You see Dinwiddie getting off to a crazy start and Brunson joining them later. I think you got to also look to a guy like Mikal Bridges, who is respectably a DPOY candidate this year. Also needed to have his way with one of those guys and shut down what one of them at least was doing when you have a team that has 2-3 guys going off in a game 7.
Yeah.
But you look at guys like Chris Paul, who started to disappear throughout the series. And it's interesting when you look at his numbers, it wasn't like he stunk it up in terms of numbers, but production wise, Chris Paul is a guy who can draw a lot of attention, gets in the mid range, is able to hit that shot, is able to, throughout the regular season, embarrassing youngsters, and rightfully so. He's been in this game for a long time, but you got to put your stamp on the series. As a guy like that who has that type of career, you have to put your stamp on a series like that. And they really just didn't get it done. I think, like you said, maybe there is some locker room noise they have to figure out. Maybe it's, Ayton, I think also game 7 didn't have a lot of touches. Didn't really look like he was wanting to be aggressive. So
wasn't engaged, right?
Wasn't engaged. Yeah, I agree. And so whatever happened with them, they have to find a way to move forward and put the right pieces in place. I do think it's possible. I remember a game versus the Celtics earlier this year that almost was in the beginning of the Celtics run, playing against the Suns. Although the Celtics came out against that game, you might be able to remind me. I can't remember the big man's name who was filling in for Ayton while he was injured.
JaVale McGee?
Not JaVale McGee, a young guy. Don't know if he's still on the Suns right now.
I forget his name.
We'll come back to that, but he was playing out of his mind. And so I think the Suns have a good system. I think if they really have the right pieces in play, maybe get a couple more guys on their bench, right? People like Campaign, he was hooping a lot more last year in the playoffs and didn't really put his stamp on anything this year either. I think if they get some more pieces in place that can really deliver, kind of fill in the rest of those spaces, then they should be okay. But definitely disappointing playoffs for them after a good year.
Yeah, Les, and we talked about all the length of Suns, right? Like Bridges, Cam Johnson. We talked about their length.
Crowder.
And they didn't use it. They didn't phase Luka. Like they are younger. I don't want to call them soft, but they didn't play as tough as they needed to.
Right.
And to your point on Chris Paul, shooting numbers are fine. But you know what he reminded me of? I grew up a Jordan fan. He looked like John Stockton. When John Stockton was like 34, 35, 36, it's like he was shooting 50%, but it's like he knew in his head, it's like, I can't get shots off. It's like, I was able to do it against when I was able to get to my spots. But once they took away Chris Paul's spots, again, whether he was injured or not, doesn't matter. He didn't get shots off. He shot 56% in the playoffs. Oh, that's nice. He didn't score. He didn't produce. And then once he can't produce, the team can double team Booker, and it's a wrap. And then if Ayton and the other guys aren't being aggressive and making shots, it was over. And it looked, to me, their body language looked like, we're done. We can't figure this out, which then goes to coaching as well. Like it was really confusing. And I'm mad that I forgot that center's name. He played a great job. He did a great job in that series. He might've been the MVP of the last 5 games.
Right.
But I've the reason I can't remember his name, guys, is because I already tried to erase that memory from my memory bank.
I know it hurt.
It's been a week. It's over.
I know it hurts.
It's football season now.